It is another fine, cold, rainy day in the garage, and it's another day that we got some new parts sitting out here in front of the quad. It is a total mess out here because I've been working on all kinds of little projects that weren't really worth filming, but I have a few things in front of me, and one of them I think is definitely worth filming. So on the left, we've got a TM Design skid plate. Always really liked their products, always had really good luck with it. Things are super durable. I have one on the LTR back there, and I've actually overjumped some tables pretty big, and I guess long story short, I have bottomed that thing out and actually bottomed it out on like pretty big rocks and gouged it really deep, and it still holds up fine and still works great. So nothing but good things to say about these. I know there's other poly skid plates on the market, but these guys it's always been my go-to. So that's what I got for protecting the frame on this guy. And then I also got an hour meter, because if you don't have an hour meter, you should have one. It's so cheap, so easy to put on. There's no reason not to have one, and even if you don't end up like utilizing it, at least you have some way of gauging how much time you're actually putting on your machine. So pick one up. No need to put an install video up of that, because that is super easy to install, and there's I got a Tusk one because I've had like $80 ones, I've had really expensive ones. I actually didn't pay for them, but I've had them. They didn't work. And I have a Tusk one on the LTR. It's been awesome. It works great. I think it's $20 or something like that. So no reason not to get one. Watch their video. It's a good video. You'll be set. But this is what I've got in front of me. I have the AIS Removal Kit for the YFZ. And then I've got an oil breather box that I picked up from 38 Motorsports. And before I show you how that goes on, I'm going to talk about a few things. The first is I actually, not really thinking about it, I just started pulling all the AIS stuff off of the quad. I didn't film that, so my apologies. It's already done. I'm not going to put it all back together or anything like that. Just know it's really simple to do. You can identify the AIS right away. And when I go to show you how to install this, I'll show you kind of where all that stuff was, and you'll get a pretty good idea of what it was and what it looks like. But onto this. So I bought the GYTR AIS Removal Kit because, well, it's made by Yamaha, and I don't think that they would sell a product if it wasn't something that worked well on their machine. I've seen people say to buy the 2009 to 2013 bracket, which holds like your clutch cable and throttle cable in place. And that's actually the AIS on the 14 and up uses that bracket also for like a vent hose deal. And the older bracket is just solid right here, and then it still has the hanger for those cables. I don't think that hanger is necessary. I've seen people disagree about that online. I will show you why I don't think it's necessary, and I'll show you my solution for not having a bracket there anymore. But again, if you needed that hanger there, I don't think that Yamaha would sell something that you could put on that wouldn't have the hanger anymore. So that's my commentary on that. The other reason that I went with this, there is, like, these guys, 38 Motorsports, they sell a block-off plate that's pretty much virtually the same, but it's a little bit kind of fancier looking, and it might be nicer metal for all I know. But this also has just a few little parts inside of it. It comes with another gasket that's brand new. It's got this, it's got like the tie, it's got the little rubber plug. So it's got some parts in there that I definitely wanted to do this job. And again, I do feel better about it being like a genuine Yamaha part. I think that's, I don't know, that just for me is what I wanted. So that's what I went with. It's super inexpensive kit. I think it's definitely worth picking up. And then onto the box. And I'm going to talk a lot about why I picked this one in particular, because there's a lot of different options for this. And at the end of the day, this is what I felt the best about. So number one, this box mounts just under the computer here. So it's going to mount to these two bolt holes, and it's going to mount underneath this. So it'll sit kind of like back here, essentially. So I like the mounting location. It's clean, it's out of the way, it's up at the front. There is another breather box that does the same thing, and I actually bought some other products for them from that company, but it was made of poly, and I picked this metal one because I feel a little bit better about, one, the durability, but then also, two, the other nice thing about metal is I think it has a little bit better cooling properties, and I think, I mean, it's going to sound goofy, but from all the experience that I had when I was working at the motocross magazine, all of the sort of auxiliary oil tanks that those bikes had on them at like the factory level, they're always made out of this. And I know that they have access to other materials, so it makes me think that they wouldn't pick a heavier material like aluminum if there wasn't some sort of benefit to using it. So that was kind of my reasoning for going with this as opposed to one that's made out of plastic. Now, we'll walk around here and I'll just kind of show you the other reason why I picked the 38 Motorsports kit. A lot of people use the LTR 450 breather box, and I've seen that before, and I actually thought about doing that because I already have an LTR. I actually wouldn't have robbed that breather box, but it would have been an easy solution to pick one of those up and do that. But a lot of them, they use mounts that attach to these two bolts here. And then even, I think it's like Walsh, I want to say, uses like a similar thing where it mounts up here. And I didn't really like that location. One, because of the heat in this area. It's not going to let that oil like cool down as much. And then the other thing I was thinking about was if you're mounting with these bolts, and these bolts are also part of what holds your cylinder head down, you're not going to get the exact same like torque on those bolts that you're supposed to have. It just changes the dynamic a little bit. And I think that of all the areas to mess with, that's one that you definitely want to stick as close to kind of the factory recommendation as possible. So to me, it didn't seem like the best idea to try and mount something off of that location, whereas mounting it up here at the front, you're definitely not going to run into anything like that. You know, you don't even have to have this whole piece on here. Whereas obviously, if you didn't run those bolts, you'd probably run into some issues over time. So that's why I selected what I did. Everyone's got their own take on it. I wouldn't say that my way is the right way or wrong way, but I'm sure that people will want to know why I chose to do what I did, and that's why. So with that said, I'm going to show you now how to install and kind of do this AIS thing. It's super simple. I'm going to start with sort of the GYTR kit, and then we'll dive into the 38 Motorsports thing second. So the first thing you'll notice about the GYTR kit when you get it is that it comes with tons of instructions, which is awesome, because if you're not sure what to do with the AIS, this is at least going to give you kind of a head start. So that'll definitely help. But personally, I don't need any of these instructions because I've already got that all taken apart. It was pretty easy to just kind of analyze by looking at it. And then it's going to tell you everything that you've got in here. So you've got the block off the airbox plug, which is one really handy thing to have. You've got the bolts, you've got a new gasket, and you've got zip tie. So here's what we got here. These are the old bolts, the shorter ones in my hand, and you can see they're definitely shorter. So you'll want the longer bolts for this install kit. You don't want to use the same ones that you just took out. So all you're going to do, and I will need two hands for this, but there's no point in showing you. You're just going to take the gasket, put it against the gasket surface, put your block off plate over that, and then take your two new bolts and bolt that down. And I would probably go ahead and use some blue Loctite in there. I think that would be a wise choice. You definitely don't want that thing coming off. All right, so now that guy's installed. So easy to do, just the 2 bolts, got the gasket, everything's good to go. Then with my cables, what I did is I took 3 zip ties and I zip tied it right here at the front so it can't slide. I zip tied it right here at the back of the clutch cable adjuster. So it keeps it in place a little better. It still can move around, but it's not too bad. And then I just put one more back here. And you can see that guy, it's got some wiggle room, but it's not going down to the exhaust. It's not gonna get into anything. It's pretty secure. So I feel very good about that. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is install a product that didn't come in the GYTR kit or the 38 Motorsports kit. This is from Peak Racing Products, and it is basically just like a dummy plug that is filled with like the little rubber stoppers on this end, and that is going to plug in to the old AIS plug right here. And it's not necessary at all to have this. You could just as easily do it with electrical tape, but I do like this because it's just nice, clean. It fills the gap left by the AIS. And now all I have to do is find a nice little secure spot to zip tie this up out of the way, and we're good to go. We've got the block off, we've got the plug, so that's all good. I've got one of my AIS hoses just hanging out here. I believe, I don't even remember what this one went to. But anyways, I've got this one. I've got this one coming out of the crank down here. I'm saving this just in case I need it for anything at all. It's a brand new hose that hasn't even had oil through it yet, so might as well hang on to that just in case. And then I've got the one up on top of the valve cover just plugged, ready to go. And then this guy behind here, and this cover is just hanging out. This guy is the one that goes into the air box back there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop this guy off, which might require me to get around to the other side. And then once I pop that off, then I'm gonna take the plug and the zip tie. I'm gonna put that plug on, zip tie it tight, cut the excess off, and then our air box will be totally plugged up and ready to go. Got that hose out of the way. And got the plug on back there. It's gonna be very hard to see it. It's just right back there behind these wires. Now if you're like me, you'll find it's much easier to do this when you've popped the plastic cover off for your wiring harness there, and you have way better access back there. Anyways, you put it on, the plug is just back behind these wires up here, and then once you get it on, let's see if I can get any angle on it. It's in a there we go, right there. You can see I've got the zip tie, I've got the plug. I used just a little bit of grease, which made it go on much easier. It also will help it seal just a little better and keep that rubber from drying out. So yeah, I would recommend just very lightly grease this, take this plastic cover off to do the install, and it should go pretty smooth. Now we can go ahead and move on from doing the GYTR kit because that's all done, and we'll switch over, start doing the 38 Motorsports oil cooler and get that guy installed. And that should be also really quick. It's gonna essentially piggyback off of this, and then we'll just route those hoses up there and get it all installed, and then we'll have a drain hose that goes down somewhere. We'll route that, and then we'll install it where the computer mounts up. Okay, so the first thing I'll tell you if you get the 38 Motorsports Breather Box is you shouldn't even have to watch this video. The instructions are very clear, very simple, very easy to follow. So essentially what you're gonna do is you're going to take this guy. This is gonna be facing the front of the quad. This will face the rear. So this faces the engine, this faces your front bumper, headlights, whatever you wanna say. Front, back, got it? Good. Next thing you're gonna do is you're going to install the hoses onto the box before you install the box on the quad. So that's the first step. Next thing you're going to do, you should already be at this point all torn down. You're going to take the longest hose, you're going to mount it to the front. Then that front piece is going to be essentially your drain hose. And that is going to route down in the front, kind of down by your radiator reservoir, coolant reservoir, whatever you want to call it. That's where that one's going to go. The top one, as you would probably expect, is going to mount to your valve cover. And that's going to be the shortest hose because it travels the shortest distance from the front to the engine. Then the bottom one is going to mount to the guy down here on the crankcase, and that's going to be the medium length hose. Now when you get your hoses, you can definitely tell which one is shortest and longest and so on. So going to use that. You're going to use the OEM mounting bolts up here to put this guy on. And then I am going to go ahead and reuse all of the OEM clamps that I took off when I took all the AIS stuff off. And I'm going to have way more of these than I'm going to need for this new kit. So not only is that super handy, but there are some different sizes. So if for some reason, let's say one's too small or too big or whatever, I should definitely have enough clamps to get this job done without having to buy anything. So again, when you buy this, follow the instructions that come with it. They're very, very clear on how to do this, but nonetheless, I'm going to go ahead and install this per those instructions, and then I'll just go ahead and show you what that final install looks like. All right, so the new breather box is now installed. And what I will tell you is just a few things. The first is that you're going to want to make sure that your cables route on the left side of the box. If you try and route them on the right side, which is kind of how they are naturally oriented from stock, it's going to pinch, and when you go to turn your bars, you're going to be in for a nasty surprise. So make sure the cables are routed on the left side, and then you're going to want to use the bigger of the two clamps. There's two different size clamps in kind of your whole AIS kit from stock. I used the bigger of the two to clamp onto the box, and then I also needed one of those big guys for the top valve cover. For the bottom one, I was able to use just the exact same one that was already here before. It was tight, but that's good because I want this as tight as possible so that it doesn't come off for any reason at all. So that's all on. The hoses are pretty self-explanatory for routing. You route them to the right of the steering stem as kind of per the orientation of the box being tilted that way. I have the top one running there. The bottom one runs just right down there. I put the stock guard back on just because I want to make sure that this thing doesn't come off. It also kind of holds this line really nicely right here against this little edge. And then the drain line routes up here in the front. It's really kind of a tight spot, but it routes just behind all this here, comes down, actually goes down. See if I can get the camera where I can't see, but it comes down here kind of behind the steering stem, and then there's a little hole in the frame right here where it pops through, comes down, very loosely zip tied it there just to secure it, and then it goes under the reservoir and comes out right here. And then I just frayed it just a hair on the edge, just kind of helps keep moisture from ending up in there, and we're good to go. So that is it. The AIS is now deleted. We've got the block off plate in the front, the breather box up there. We've got our intake plugged. The oil, the stock like oil return tank that attaches to the airbox back here is off, and I did not plug that hole. If you do some kind of riding where you need that hole plugged, there are kits. I think like Peak Motorsports, the same guys I got the electrical plugs from, they sell a little like plug that you can just super glue in there, or you can tape it or do whatever you need to do. But I'm not concerned at all about that hole, so I'm not going to worry about that. And other than that, I think that's really pretty much everything. If you have any questions, I would say refer to the instructions first, and then maybe refer to whoever you're buying your version of this kit from, and then ask some questions on this video after the fact. But it really isn't too hard to figure out, and the nice thing is, I mean, you can do it however you prefer. There's a number of different options, and if you do your research, you'll find that you can kind of go with what you feel the best about. But this is the setup I feel the best about. I think it looks really clean. I think it turned out really nice. Everything's, you know, mounted up the way that I like it. So I guess we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, like I said, have any questions, definitely do your research, look at your instructions, talk to the manufacturer, and then if you still can't figure it out, leave a comment below and I'll try and help you out.